So a few months later, Mama CO gives me a call, and she says, "Baby," she said, "what you doing?" I said, "I'm nothing, Mama CO. I'm just still in a pity party." And she says, "Well, you know that video game that you auditioned for?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, they want you to come and audition for another character." I was like, "I'm not going to audition for another. They don't. I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm. What time do you want me to be there?" I was looking for a football scholarship when I got out of high school. I in turn got a theater scholarship, and I thought, well, I'll do theater, take advantage of the scholarship, and I could still walk on and try to play ball somewhere. But once I got to school, I found out how much it was going to take to be a successful actor, and it was just going to be as time consuming as if I were going to play ball. So I chose acting. Mama Seal was the voiceover director, a voiceover agent. Myself and a couple of other fellow actors were out in the hallway clowning and telling jokes and doing this and that and the other thing and having a great time, but we were loud. All of a sudden, she appears in the doorway and she looks at me and says, "Marcus," and she gives me the finger to come here like, I was in trouble like the principal, and I was like, but I wasn't the only one out here that was making noise. Why I got to be the one to come and be your office? And I'm looking back at my friends and they like, so I have to go. Then I go in, and when I go in, she is standing behind her big wooden desk, and she's flipping pages in her book, and she's looking at me, and she's looking back at you. And then she says, "Marcus, sit down." And she goes, and I'm starting to really get nervous because I've never been in this office before, and I've ever had any reason to deal with Mama Sylvia. So I'm like, I don't know. And then she finally raises up, and she looks and she says, "Why aren't you on our voiceover demo reel?" I didn't even know we had a voiceover demo. I didn't know. She says, "I want you on our voiceover demo reel." So she pulls out a pen and paper and she writes down about 4 or 5 different studios and the engineers involved with the studios. And she says, "I want a demo reel back in here by Tuesday so I can get you on the demo reel with some of the other voice actors." She was the person that made the phone call to say, "Hey, they want you to come and audition for this particular character." And she was also the person that made the phone call to say, "Hey, you've been cast." She treated me like I was one of her adopted children. That's why I call her Mama Seal.
I'm sure she has to get a Christmas card every year.
Well, I try to see her and try to keep up with her. But she's off living her life. She's retired, and she's kicked back relaxing now. She doesn't have to deal with the headaches in the business like she used to. I have done a lot of independent films. I have done a lot of television. I've done Dallas. Like I need my IMDb page in front of me.
Well, so what's your most memorable role that you actually had the most fun playing in it? Share a
It was
story
an
with us.
independent film called Gallows Road. It was myself and Ernie Hudson. Ernie Hudson of Ghostbuster fame, amongst many, many, many other things that he has done. He's a tremendous guy, a wonderful guy. I learned a lot from him. But I got a chance to play his younger brother in the film, and he and I were brothers, being torn apart by some racists in the community. It starts out, his family is burned to death inside a house, and we know who did it, but the police won't do anything about it. And it's kind of that journey from that point on. And it was my first working with, well, I won't say my first, but it was in a way because I got to share a lot of screen time with Ernie. So it was really a joy to work with him.
So let's go back to voice acting a little bit.
Okay.
Your voice of Brick, that seemed like that was a whole process. I was listening to some of this backstory behind that. It's fascinating. Would you like to share a little bit of that story?
Okay. So originally, with the original Borderlands, the Borderlands that you see now is not the original concept of what was what. So the original concept of Borderlands, it was a lot darker. It was a lot of grays and browns, and it was just a really dark, dramatic. And I was originally cast as Mordecai, not Brick. And I was one of those people that was told we're going a different direction, which is the industry's way of saying, hey, you're fired. So I was hurt and upset. And, yeah, anybody would be. You got fired from your job. Uh, and so a few months later, Mama CO gives me a call and she says, baby, she said, what you doing? I said, I'm not Mama CO. I'm just still in a pity party. And she says, well, you know that video game that you auditioned for? I was like, yeah. She's like, well, they want you to come and audition for another character. I was like, I'm not going to audition for another. They don't. I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm. What time they want me to be there? So I get in the car and I go and I drive in. So when I get there, I'm still a little uptight about the fact that they're making me re-audition again for a new character when you had me in the first place. So, but what I didn't know was that they had pretty much cleaned house. They revamped the game and they got new writers, new art people, the whole thing, new directors. And was one producer that was still there, Porter Pratt, and he was the reason why I was there. And he says, listen, we've got this new character we want to introduce to Borderlands, and we think you'd be perfect for it. And when they put the picture up on the screen, the original drawings of Bricky standing there like this. And I just said, hell yeah, which has become now one of the monikers of the game, to so to speak, as far as Brick is concerned. So I yelled out, hell yeah, and went on with the audition and all the dialogue they had there for me. And I shook hands, I left, I got in the car, I'm riding back home. And I was feeling good because I was like, even if I don't get it, like, I had a great time at this audition. If I don't get it, the world is not lost. But I got
That you did,
it.
and the world's better for it.
Well, I hope so, because as an actor, and I tell this in my panel, you know, part of our part of our job is to let you go to another world, whether it's by voice acting in anime or gaming, or if it's on television, or if it's in film, or if it's on stage. Because for that next 2 hours or whatever, I got you. And so now I get to take you on a ride. I get to take you on a journey. You riding a roller coaster with me to the flow of the story. And how is it going to affect you? One thing that I've really learned about being a voice actor is when I come to the cons and I get to personally, face to face, meet my fans and really sit down and talk with them and have a conversation with them. I find out so much about how me being Brick has affected their lives. And for the most part, it's all been positive, and they were going through negative. One gentleman just today told me, he said, I was really, really, really shy in school and, kind of bullied and picked on or whichever. He said, but playing Brick in Borderlands gave me a lot of relief.
So that having been said, you give a lot to people in that. In your life, what tethers you to hope?
That's an easy one. My parents, my mom and my dad, Jimmy and Aubergine Mauldin. Uh, my dad was a football coach and teacher. My mother was a teacher. So, I already knew the world is a big place. You're going to encounter different people, different social status, different races, and, being a teacher and being a coach and a teacher, they dealt with that every day. So I, in turn, saw this. And, my grandfather, he worked for the railroad. That kept me grounded because my grandfather, he got up every day, 6 days a week, and went to the railroad. My mom and my dad dedicated to their work. And I learned a lot about my mom and my dad once they passed, about what they did for others within the community. Things, these are my parents. I know my parents, but no, I didn't. I didn't know my parents like I thought, because they helped so many other people, those same people that they affected or helped or inspired. when my mom and my dad passed on, those same people came back to me to tell me these particular stories. And, you know, that keeps me in the fact of I'm hoping that I can create hope and joy and inspire people through my acting.
Thank you for watching Anime Diet. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe button for more tasty treats.